All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining today. This is Ryan Wilson. I'll be hosting for you. We're going to do a quick run-through of the Marketing Solutions platform. And as you're all aware, this is really geared for you, our agency partners, and how to effectively leverage our Marketing Solutions tools for yourselves and for our clients. Joining me today, I have Cal Singh Tanzan. Cal is a senior account manager here at LinkedIn. She'll be walking through a few of the products and here to help answer questions as well.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Hope everybody enjoys this amazing time with us.
And the one thing that I'm going to ask from the participants in the room as we're walking through here, if you could, that little chat box that nobody ever uses normally in these things, we're going to ask if everybody could, right now or at some point early on here, drop into the chat box the one thing above everything else that you're hoping to pull from the call today. And we're expecting to have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A where we'll address some of the questions, and we'll do our best to get through and answer everybody's questions about the platform that we can today. So thank you again all for joining. Now, as a starting point, a lot of you are probably aware we've experienced some pretty significant growth over the last several years here at LinkedIn. We're currently up over 364 million members globally, and that number is still growing by about 200,000 professionals every day. Now, the other transformation that's happened during that time period is not just that we've had more users joining, but the way that the users are engaging with our platform has changed as well. We are actually finding that our users are engaging about 7 times as much with the published content on the platform as jobs at this point. So where we really did begin as a networking tool, the evolution of our site has really benefited those of us in the marketing space where we are really the go-to publishing platform in the B2B space. So what we're going to talk about today, we're really breaking into 3 pieces. So the first is reaching the right people with the right targeting, both from B2B context as well as professionals as consumers. The second piece is once we've identified and reached those prospects, effectively nurturing them to become customers for us. And the third piece is how we're going to measure the effectiveness of the tools and the platform so that we can continue to optimize and improve that performance. So as a starting point, the challenge in our world today is that the buying process has really changed. And what we find is that buyers are actually going through the majority of that process before they're ready to engage with a brand. So the Forrester study found that up to 90% of the buying process is happening before a prospect is ready to engage with a vendor directly. This next stat is actually from a Google study, which has found that 10 pieces of content on average are being consumed by those prospects before a purchase decision is made. So this really speaks to the importance of content marketing in our world, and content has really become the digital currency of the day. So everything that we're talking about today, everything we talk about with the LinkedIn platform is going to be about effectively leveraging that content to reach the right users, effectively nurture those users through, and of course, convert them into customers. So the challenge that we find for a lot of our clients today, particularly in the B2B world, is that the traditional funnel is broken. So what I'd like you all to do is picture in B2B where we don't have a physical storefront for most of our clients. What we're finding is that the website, for all intents and purposes, functions as that storefront. So in today's world, 100 people walk into that digital storefront, which is your client's website. About 95 of those people walk in, do a quick lap, and then they walk out the door never to be seen again. Now, there are a lot of reasons that this happens. For the most part, what you're looking at is in a complex buying process that involves a lot of stakeholders and people involved in that decision-making process. Once you've got a preferred solution or an idea about how to solve a problem, there's a requirement to go through the due diligence, to investigate alternatives, and to be able to go back and defend your recommendation to that buying committee. So in a lot of cases, the traffic that our clients are taking, it's really prospects who may be a great fit, but in a lot of cases are already leaning heavily towards a preferred vendor. So the second piece, even for those users or those visitors who do stay in the store, what we found is that in the marketplace, there aren't a lot of tools to effectively engage those visitors in the store. Now, one of the most effective tools out there is email-based marketing automation. And we'll talk a little bit about this later, but the one challenge that's presented with email as the medium is that only about 20% of those nurturing emails are typically opened. So of the 5 people who are still left in your customer or in your client's store, only about 1 out of those 5 people is ever really getting your full message. So for all of the time and energy we spend building great websites, building great content, driving people there, only about 1 out of 100 of those prospects is ever actually going to see all of that material. So that's really a problem that we're looking to solve. And if we're able to do that, how we're going to need to do that is by reaching the right people at the top of the funnel and eliminating waste, making sure that we're delivering that highly relevant and helpful content that's both going to educate your clients and also effectively differentiate your brand from your competitors, and making sure that we're tailoring the message based on where the prospects are in that buying journey. So by improving the reach, the key metrics that we're expecting to impact are going to be the increased awareness, of course, brand building, and the ability to shape that market perception. And on the bottom end, if we're effectively nurturing and educating these prospects, we should improve the lead quality as well as, of course, the conversion rate and ultimately the pipeline and revenue that we're generating. So now we're going to dive into the Marketing Solutions platform to talk a little bit about how we're going to do that. And I'm going to kick it over to Cal to walk you through the targeting.
Amazing. As we all know, as Ryan mentioned, we have approximately 360 million professionals on LinkedIn. That makes us the largest professional platform in the world. Beyond that, beyond just the quantity of being able to target these professionals, one thing that sets LinkedIn targeting apart is the quality. We have a big repository of first-party data. Our members are sharing different aspects of their professional identity with us, whether it's the company that they work in, their seniority that they have, their function. All of this can be extremely, extremely important for a B2B marketer. Beyond that, beyond the obvious B2B marketing strategy, one thing to remember is your professionals are your most everyday consumer. Yes, I am a senior account manager at LinkedIn, but I'm also a travel enthusiast, consistently looking about where can I take my next big break. So really good demographic for travel industry marketers. Ryan over here is a new first-time home buyer. So things to remember, beyond just a professional identity, beyond just being able to target people by your standard job titles, their occupation, there is a personal identity behind the professional identity that can be leveraged on LinkedIn. The second thing to think about is beyond just their standard targeting capabilities, we're able to divulge a little bit more into a person's professional identity and a person's professional network. For example, in this example, John Smith is an SMB owner, a small business owner, an extremely, extremely vital demographic for many marketers. But in addition to that, he also has over 500 connections on LinkedIn. As you can see, he has a pretty decent network size that makes him, even if he wasn't a direct decision maker, an influencer to decision-making processes. He's also a part of multiple groups. We can see that on LinkedIn. Groups are a really vital part of LinkedIn environment. It allows professionals to share their thoughts, learn from like-minded people on the community on LinkedIn. So we're able to see what beyond their just everyday job, what he really is interested about, whether it's building a small business, whether it's thinking about what IT decision he should be making for his company as they scale. The third, again, LinkedIn has evolved into this a definitive publishing platform for professionals. So here we're able to see what John is sharing on a daily basis with LinkedIn. So beyond just your everyday targeting, it's important to remember that we can target by unique custom segments, such as connections, such as whether the person is changing and looking for a new opportunity. So the targeting is quite limitless.
Thank you. So keeping that targeting in mind, and obviously the scale is a big piece of this, but as Cal mentioned as well, it's the ability to get really granular within that audience and to really reach the right individuals for your business or for your client's business. So when we talk about our different marketing products, we'll cover all of these today. And what you'll see in this slide, which just so that everyone knows, we will be sending out a copy of the deck and a recording of this webinar after the call as well. But what you can see here is really how we think about our different tools and where they fit into the funnel based on your client's objectives. So we'll talk a little bit about the on-site network display for your brand and reach initiatives, sponsored updates, which is really at the center of everything that we do, obviously we'll talk about. And then at the bottom of the funnel, a couple of exciting new products with our new sponsored inmail offering as well as our lead accelerator platform. And then finally, as we all know, a big piece of this is having access to great data to not only prove out what we've been doing, but also to help guide our recommendations in the future. So we'll be covering that as well. So the first tool that we'll talk about is the on-site display.
Amazing. So LinkedIn on-site display allows you to engage with our professionals in a very non-cluttered, brand-safe environment, which is LinkedIn. You're able to leverage LinkedIn targeting, which makes it even more robust for this product. In addition to your typical, your IAB standard formats, that's the 300 by 250 and the 160 by 600, you're also able to utilize very specific LinkedIn unique products such as the Spotlight ad units. You can see that creative example in the screenshot, and follow a company page to build your followership on LinkedIn. Again, things to remember about this, it's a brand safe, non-cluttered, excellent way to stay top of mind with your target audience. With regards to the text link, this is a product that you can leverage on the LinkedIn self-serve platform in case your budget, your marketing budget doesn't meet our IO minimums or insertion order minimums.
Yes, and as Cal mentioned, our minimums for a full service campaign on the platform are $25,000 per quarter, which can be spread across any of the products that you're seeing here. We do have a couple of tools as well that are available through our self-serve platform, and the text link is, of course, one of those. So the next tool, which is new as part of the LinkedIn offering as of the beginning of this year, is the LinkedIn network display. So where LinkedIn has for a long time been the gold standard of professional data, one of the limits that we had previously was that the reach was really limited to the LinkedIn platform. So what we're able to do through the network display now is extend that same targeting, but reach those professionals and reach your target audience wherever they go throughout the course of their day. So we have partnerships with a core group of about 2,500 publisher sites who, again, as a supplement to the on-site display, we're able to help get extended reach and frequency to those visitors. The ad units, as you can see, it's going to be standard IAB units. And when we talk about the specifics of the targeting and of the campaign, these are conversations that typically client by client, once you're connected with your account executive, they can go a little bit deeper into the best ways to execute here.
Awesome. So LinkedIn Sponsored Update is our fastest growing product for our business. This product allows you to deliver rich content through all devices, your desktop, your mobile, and your tablet devices. You have, and again, the ability to utilize LinkedIn's robust targeting as well. You also have an option of using a CPC or a CPM pricing model, depending on what your goal of your marketing strategy is. In addition to the flexibility of your pricing model and the targeting, you're also able to test a variety of content. You're able to test creative, your images, your headlines, through something called the direct sponsored content as well. So extremely popular, it is becoming an increasingly important product as content marketing grows overall.
And I think the one other piece to call out with the sponsored updates is you hear a lot of talk these days about both cross-device targeting, which, as you can see here, the sponsored updates obviously fit nicely into mobile devices in that format. But when we talk about native ad units, this is a truly native offering in that not only is it front and center in the page, but that the content, if we're doing an effective job, if we're turning out good content, this is actually what the users are coming to the site looking for. So because of that, we found really high engagement rates, and this is the one product who tends to perform against essentially any objectives that we hear from our clients. So as Cal mentioned, the flexibility to be able to buy on a CPM or CPC basis, depending on your goals, the ability for direct sponsored content to test different iterations of your creative or of your headline. All of this gives us the ability to do some really smart testing and to really effectively make sure that we are engaging the right audience. So the next piece, the sponsored InMail, and for those of you who may have run InMail or used that product at some point in the past, it's important to note that this is really a completely new product. And I say that because where in the past, and as with traditional email marketing buys, you might identify a list of, let's say, 100,000 IT decision makers as a target audience. You would essentially generate a list of those users and send out an email campaign. That is how the old product worked. The new product is actually working on a real-time deliverability model, and the pricing is actually auction-based. So what we're doing instead is giving you the opportunity, much like we would do in a sponsored update or other auction media buy, to identify your target audience. In this case, we would say IT decision makers. Identify your budget. We'll say $10,000 as an example for a campaign. And then based on that budget and that targeting, we'll be able to provide you with a suggested bid range and give you some information to guide where that pricing should work to be able to back into the number of users who you would be able to reach at that budget level. The key to this is that the InMails now, once we've identified that targeting criteria and budget, are not going to be delivered until the users who meet that criteria log into the LinkedIn platform. So what you're doing is you're getting guaranteed 100% deliverability on these campaigns. Because of that, we've seen a significant improvement in performance, open rates as high as 40%, and with some of the other improvements to the templates, which you can see on the left, the desktop template, and then on the right, the mobile template, we've seen some other performance improvements as well. So again, for any kind of immediate big splash initiative, to get that one-on-one messaging with a little bit longer form content, this is an opportunity to be really specific and to make a big splash in a short period of time. And the last product that we'll want to cover is LinkedIn Lead Accelerator. Now, this is significantly different from the other products that we've discussed. And the difference being where everything else that we've talked about are really different ad units, the Lead Accelerator product is a software platform. So as opposed to focusing on or pricing based on a CPM or a CPC model, the Lead Accelerator product is all built around the number of prospects who we want to nurture in any given month. So when we talked earlier about the broken funnel and losing those anonymous site visitors, Lead Accelerator is really built to solve that problem. For those of you who are familiar with email-based marketing automation platforms, a lot of this will sound familiar. A lot of the concepts are similar, but there are a few key differences since the ads are being delivered through display and social channels. For those of you who are familiar with traditional retargeting, you'll also see some similarities, although the easiest way to think about this would be retargeting that's actually built for that high consideration buying process that we typically see in the B2B world and in a lot of high-end B2C. So the concepts behind Lead Accelerator are pretty simple. The first piece is identifying the right audiences, who you want to speak to. So the Lead Accelerator platform begins once a prospect has hit your client's website. Now, the first ad, just like traditional retargeting, would be served. So we could set up different audience segments based on different landing pages on the website. If your client has different specific verticals, if healthcare, IT, and government are three key verticals for your client, we could serve a different message based on whether their prospects are landing on the vertical pages for any of those segments. A second opportunity for segmentation would be leveraging the LinkedIn data set. We've got 364 million users, so if we know that we want to speak to different audiences based on the data that we've already collected, we have the opportunity to segment that way as well. A third opportunity for segmenting these audiences, for any clients who have custom segments built in a DMP or through BlueKai specifically, we're actually able to import those segments as well, and those can be used for audience segmentation also. So once we've identified the different audiences who we want to speak to, the second piece is taking the content and the creative assets that we already have and deciding how we want to leverage those to tell the right story to each of those audiences. So what we're able to do is take that audience, and let's say that we'll use the IT segment as a starting point. So we've served the first round of creative to that prospect. What the Lead Accelerator platform allows us to do is build a rule-based system to determine what is the right message to send to that prospect at the right time. So once a prospect hits one of those IT landing pages as a starting point, they would be served that first impression that would speak to, the first level retargeting messaging that you want to get across. Based on the user's reaction to that ad, maybe they click on the ad, maybe they visit some other pages, maybe they download a white paper, you have the ability to build out a rule that will then send that prospect automatically into the second wave of creative messaging. Now, the other opportunity is that if after a couple days or a week of seeing that same ad, that prospect hasn't responded, you also have the opportunity to send them into that next wave of creative. So in doing so, because we're serving this through display and social channels, you have the opportunity to tell this complete story and to begin nurturing these prospects from the moment they hit your website rather than having to wait until they've already filled out a lead form. The opportunity in all of this is that this becomes a great tool for driving those anonymous visitors to your site or to your client site to become known contacts who you can then engage through email marketing as well. So within this messaging, we're serving these ads across a number of ad units. Some of the units that we discussed today, on-site LinkedIn display, the LinkedIn network display, LinkedIn sponsored updates, as well as the Facebook newsfeed and sidebar as well. All of these ad units are built into the platform. So when we talk about increasing conversion, as the system learns and as that optimization is happening on the back end, we're able to identify who is the right user, when is the right time to reach them, and what is the right piece of creative to send. In doing that, we're improving that prospect's experience because they're getting more relevant messaging at the right time. We're improving the experience and the performance for our clients because you're better educating and you're able to better differentiate your brand from your competitors, and in doing so, we see that uplift in performance. So just to help you visualize, this is an example of the different waves of creative and how we would set these up for based on those different audience segments that we outlined before. Another important piece to note is that within the Lead Accelerator platform, we also have our autofill product built into this. So what that means for the user is when they get to a point where that prospect is ready to download a white paper or get into any gated content that we're offering, we have the opportunity to set this up so that the user can get through with 2 clicks, essentially, which is exceptionally important, particularly on mobile devices. So it's a very low friction lead form. But then for the client, along with having a better educated prospect, you're also going to get more detailed information than you'd typically be able to capture in a normal lead form. And as a final piece, this is just to highlight a couple of the ad units and where these are showing up. There's an example of the sponsored update unit, and then here's an example of the display on site as well. So in thinking about this, whenever you're engaging with an account executive here, it's really important to help us understand what are the objectives that we're driving towards for this campaign, and of course the business objectives overall. But the typical points that we're looking at are focusing on reaching the right target, driving those prospects to the website, nurturing those visitors to the website to become named prospects, and then acquiring those prospects once we've already named them. And this chart gives you a good example of how we see the products fitting in at each step of that process. So the last piece that we'll talk about is going to be our ability in terms of analytics and reporting. Within the Lead Accelerator platform, the opportunity that's presented, because this is an always-on platform, is that you start to get a much deeper understanding of the audience that's coming to the site, as well as the impact of different changes at each stage in the creative and content process. And what I mean by that is that we're able to report back by specific nurture streams and waves of creative within those nurture streams. So once we've identified the IT segment as an important segment for us, or the small business segment as an important segment for us, what we're able to do is outline that process. It may be 2 or 3 waves of creative. It may be 7 or 8 waves of creative, just depending on the sales cycle. But in doing that, you're able to actually test at every different wave within that process. You can test different creative, you can test different content. The platform allows you to do A/B testing with every piece of that. And the access to this data for you as an agency partner is going to allow you to make really intelligent recommendations to your client that are based in data and easily defensible internally as well. So this is where we see huge value for our partners and some of our agency partners who are very good at leveraging this data. The feedback that we've received is that it has been a great tool in helping strengthen their own relationships with their clients, and that it's actually made some of those conversations easier when you're able to go to a client and show them the data to say, this wave of creative looks good, this wave of creative looks good, but look at the drop-off over the last month in wave 3. And because of that, we're recommending a creative refresh. And having access to this data really gives the opportunity to do that. Some of the other reporting and analytics that we include here, and it's important to note that the reporting and analytics tools that we're talking about, we actually offer this as a free service for any clients who are using our network display or Lead Accelerator products. So this is actually included for those clients. The report that you'll see on the left, we talk about the funnel impact. Because we see engagement as such an important as such an important indicator of success in that nurturing process, you'll see us focus on page views and visits per visitor. So for the exposed audience who we are reaching through the platform, what is the level of engagement? Are people coming back to the site more frequently? Are they consuming more content? Are we effectively educating those prospects and differentiating the company from the competitors? Of course, along with that, we'll be tracking the action rate so that we can see, is that engagement also leading to an uptick in actions? And those actions are user-defined. So you as the agency or the client can decide what constitutes an action that we want to track. On the right-hand side, when we talk about the audience insights, what our tool allows us to do is add a whole other layer of visibility into the site traffic that your clients are seeing today. So where Google Analytics and a number of other tools out there do a great job of telling you all about how clients are getting to your site, how they're engaging, what they're doing, what our tool will allow you to do is see who those users are from a professional standpoint. Where this becomes really valuable is for our clients who have a specific niche audience. A real-life example, a client that I had worked with in the past, had a very strong brand in the small business space. They were well-known. It was a name that probably everybody on this call would recognize. But they were very limited in terms of their enterprise business, which was a little bit of a newer business, but that was really where they wanted to focus. Once we were able to get the tag onto the site, what we found is that while they were taking great traffic to that enterprise page, once we filtered down, we found that 95% of that traffic was actually coming from the small business segment. So what had happened was that because their brand recognition was so great, they were sending through this massive monthly traffic to their website. A lot of those users were just clicking through and landing on the wrong pages. So essentially they had a bit of a false positive where they believed that they were getting a lot of the right traffic, and as it turned out, having access to this data helped them see that the first objective had to be driving more of those enterprise prospects to the site. Once we identified that, we were able to focus on that audience, drive the right prospects in, and then nurture them through to effectively generate leads. That's one example of how this platform is used. The other opportunity is that with this same data, we have an audience trends report. So over time, you're going to be able to show your clients by matching back the trend data to different objectives, or to different marketing campaigns. You can actually match back so that if a client of yours is looking for executives within the healthcare space and you want to know, did our campaign effectively reach those people? You'll have the opportunity to go and match back to see, did we get the lift in executives? Did we get the lift from the healthcare vertical while this campaign was in market? Now, that's not specific to LinkedIn. This tool is actually going to help you validate really anything that you're doing in the marketplace. It's also exceptionally valuable for those of you working in PR or comms, even for your unpaid efforts. When you drop a new press release or there's something gets picked up in the press, you can actually go back and match up that calendar to see the spikes in traffic on the site, and you can actually use the filters to narrow down to the specific audiences who you're trying to reach to see what that impact was. So again, this has been a valuable tool for a number of our agency partners in helping validate even a lot of the unpaid press and marketing work that's happening as well. The last tool that I want to touch on, and we had mentioned it earlier, would be the self-service tool. So as I mentioned, our minimum for a managed service campaign at LinkedIn is $25,000 per client per quarter. Now, for some of our clients, for some small businesses in particular who may not have the marketing budget, we do also have some self-service tools available so that those businesses can leverage the platform as well. The two tools specifically are the text ads, which Cal had shown us for the on-site display, and the sponsored updates. So if you've got a great piece of content for your client, but they don't have the marketing budget for a full campaign really, you still have the opportunity to sponsor that content through our self-serve platform and to reach that audience as well. So a couple of success stories that I'd like to share. The first, OpenDNS, and this is a great example of a full funnel campaign leveraging that network reach and then the lead accelerator tool for nurturing products. So in this case, we had over 9,400 new website visits from IT professionals who were driven to the site. We saw the increased engagement. You see 140% increase in page views and 64% increase in visits per visitor. So we were effectively bringing those users back, and they were engaging with more content. And the result in this particular campaign was over 280 new leads for OpenDNS. A second opportunity, or second example here, is with Cetera Financial Group. And in this case, we drove over 900 new website visitors. You see the lift in page views of about 27%, 13% lift in visits per visitor. But in this case, they were able to track all the way back to revenue, and we saw over $1 million, or excuse me, nearly $1 million in new business generated from this full funnel approach. So we'll stop there. That covers everything that we're going to cover on the platform today. If anyone has any questions that you'd like to add, feel free to add those to the chat window. And we're going to take a second to look at a couple of the questions that had come in. Okay.
So one of the questions that came up was, what type of content has worked best for sponsored in-mail? The easiest way to think about that is content that speaks to the audience. So the beauty of LinkedIn is that you can pick your target audience, and it's customizable. So if you have to think about, put yourself in your audience's shoe, whether that content resonates well with it. Usually we've seen content that is usually helpful, adding value to the professional. It works very, very well. We've seen very product-specific updates and product-specific content work well as well. As long as it's customized to your target audience, we've seen great success, and that's probably the secret recipe. Would you agree, Ryan? The second question we're going to address is, how specific can targeting get on on-site display? Can you target by title? So we can get very specific on on-site display. We can target by occupation, so you might not get the exact titles you're looking for, but you can get something similar. Other things you can do, for example, the person asked was Chief Information Officer. You can layer seniority. That means you can layer CXOs and then layer function, that's like the IT function, and get that combination as well. So you can go granular, but you can also use a combination of our other targeting parameters to reach that audience as well, if you can't get the exact occupation you're looking for.
All right, so a few of the other questions that are coming in, let's see. In terms of, sorry, we're trying to sort through everything here. So in terms of the self-serve solution, we had a question about paying for the self-serve solution. So yes, so the self-serve platform is available, and we need to check on the daily minimum.
Yeah.
So we had a question about the daily minimum. I will check on that for you. Apologies for not having that handy. In terms of the paying, so the sponsored updates can be bought, as we had mentioned, on a CPM or CPC basis through there, as can the text ads. So in terms of payment, you can work off of either model, and yes, that is built, those are billed on a credit card below the minimum there. the next question. So received a question about the ads. Will the ads work for company profiles or groups and people profiles? So when we're talking about where the ads will drive users, if that is the question, and apologies if we've got this wrong, we have ads available. If we're looking at the follower unit that Cal had mentioned before, that is an opportunity to drive users back to the company page. We also have other units, and most of the units we're typically driving to the client's website in most cases. If we're talking about pulling ads, if we're talking about pulling published content to use for a sponsored update campaign, and I'm not sure if that's what we're looking for, but you do have the opportunity to use posts that have been published through that company page. Also today, for anyone who's not aware, you do have the opportunity that any user on LinkedIn today has the ability to publish a long-form post as well.
So we got a question about, does LinkedIn allow us to serve an ad unit next to sponsored update? The answer is you can serve at the 200 by 250 that appears on the homepage is separate than the sponsored update. The sponsored update runs on an auction-based system, so we can't really connect that with a 200 by 250 ad unit.
Yeah, so you do have the opportunity to run the two in parallel. However, we can't guarantee a roadblock placement, if that's the question, because the sponsored updates are an auction-based product. Another question that had come through in terms of geo-targeting, we do have the ability to geo-target against any of these products, so that is an opportunity. So another question that had come up, and it came up in regards to sponsored in-mail, though I would say this could also really be relevant for sponsored updates or any type of lead gen campaign in general, is that we have seen really great success on the platform with event and webinar invites. And in particular, if you do have an event coming up for a client, anything where you're looking for that immediate push and where it's a little bit longer form message that you're looking to get through, those are situations where we see sponsored in-mail as being really valuable, and we've seen great success. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up for the day. Yeah. I'd like to thank everybody again for taking the time. Hopefully this is helpful for all of you. After the webinar, we will be reaching out. You'll receive a follow-up email with a link to this webinar as well as a copy of the deck. And beyond that, anyone who needs to get in touch, you can find me as well. My name again is Ryan Wilson, and my email address is rywilson@linkedin.com. And thank you all for joining. We look forward to speaking with you all in the future. Take care.